Hello, amazing students. This is Mrs. A, and I love math. Today, we're looking at lesson 58 in our Saxon Orange Books, and we're talking about percent word problems. And we have our first word problem here. Kathy, John, and Susie have only 20 chickens left. If they began with 80 chickens, what percent of the original flock remains? Okay, so the question is, what percent remains? Okay, so now we're going to draw a picture. I call these egg problems because to me those look an awful lot of like eggs. So I call these egg diagrams. But you're going to make a whole egg, which is the total number of chickens you started with, and the 80 is the before number and the 100% number. And then we're going to split the 80 into 20 and the 60. Those are the chickens that disappeared. And the 20 is the chickens that are remaining. And we're looking at what percent and what percent. Now the question they asked us is what percent remains. So we're really looking for this one. This could be another problem, but don't both parts have to add up to 100% altogether? So you might find out both, but our question is specifically asking this one right here. 60 is the part the chickens disappeared. I don't know, maybe they were eaten, maybe they were sold to somebody else. I don't know. This is the after situation where our whole is split up, and then we're asking what is the percent of that one right there. So how we're going to set this up, I'm going to teach you two different ways, but the one I think that makes the most sense is to start with a proportion. So remember that there were 20 chickens remaining out of 80 total at the very beginning. And we're going to set this equal to the what percent. We're trying to find what percent is the 20 out of the 80, and the 80 was the 100%. So we're going to make a proportion of 20 is to 80 as the what percent we're looking for is to 100. And hopefully that makes sense. Now, if you're looking at how to actually work it, we could cross multiply from there and have what percent times 80 equals 20 times 100, which is, that's one way you could set it up. Or you could do it the way the book is setting it up by just leaving this one here and multiplying both sides by 80 so that you get the 20 by itself. That would be one way to set it up. But aren't we eventually trying to get the what percent by itself? So I'm going to go ahead and just divide by 80 and divide by 80 over here, and I get the percent we're looking for. We can cancel that out. That makes it easier. Okay, could I divide, remember that if I divided 100 by 4, that would be 25. So 200 by 8 would also be 25. So we're talking about a 25% remaining out of the 100%, which was 80 that we started with. So the percentage we're looking for is 25. So to me, that's pretty easy because I can understand these ratios that I'm setting up here. I'm looking for the percent that is remaining, which is corresponding to the 20. The 100% is what we started with, which is corresponding to the 80. So I want you to look at this and think about this as I show you the different ways they have formulas in the book. When we go back to lesson 47, you can see that your Saxon math book has 6 different equations that they associate with solving percentage problems. I think that we can do it a little bit easier than this just using the proportion, but you can choose any one of these. This is the one that they're choosing to work the problem. I pretty much chose this proportion to work the problem, and you can see that this proportion is exactly the same as this equation, because all they did is multiply this one by the of number on both sides. Now the of number is your total number, and the is number is your top number of your proportion or your fraction. That is the part that you're talking about. In our case, this is the 20 and this is the 80. So you can use these equations. They're on lesson 47, but you can see that all of the equations are really pretty close. Look at this. A fraction times of equals is. All right, so what they're talking about, when we're talking about the altogether number, the of, that is, anytime we see of, we multiply. So they're saying we multiply the number that is right after the of word. So to me, the wording is just a little bit awkward, but if this works for you, you may use it. So what they did in the book is this. Let me show you. All right, so here, down here at the bottom, you can see right here, they wrote the equation as the what percent over 100 times 80 equals 20. So that's how they're starting theirs. I started mine as a proportion of 20 over 80, and they started with this equation here. But notice, we both ended up with 25% as the answer. So we're going to be working these. I will pick different ways to work them just so that you can get more familiar with your percentages. But if you go back to lesson 48, you can see all 6 of the different ways you could express a percentage problem. So let's take our problem. Before we do away with our little diagram, let's finish our diagram. We found out that the 20% was 25. The 20 was a 25%. Well, we know that there's 100% totally, so 25% would leave 75% left, because 75 plus 25 is 100. And, of course, this one was the 100%. So now we've said the 20 is 25% of the chickens are remaining, and 75% of the chickens had something happen to them. Okay, so on the next problem, I'm going to read you the problem, and then I'm going to show you the egg diagram. Mimi and Jim have 75 thingamabobs. They want to give Hal 20% of them. How many thingamabobs do they give Hal? Okay, so if we were going to do this as an equation, the equation that I would look for is 20%. 20% of, they had 75 thingamabobs, is what? Okay, 20% of the total is what? That's what we're looking for, isn't it? But we're going to look at our pictures first, because this whole section is about drawing a diagram before you do it. So our total is, the before number is the 100% is 75, and they want to give 20%, but they don't know what number 20% is. So we'll say, what number is 20%? Well, if they're going to give away 20%, that means that they're going to be able to keep the 80%. They also don't know what that is, okay? So what number is the 20%? What number is the 80%? Now, what they're wanting in this problem is the 20%. They're not really asking this one down here. That's just what's left over. But we will give that number anyway. So how do we go about working the problem? Okay, like I would do it this way. 20% of always means times. So we're going to end up multiplying by 75, and 20% is 20 over 100. So guess what I have? I have one of the forms that Saxon math uses to express percents. I've got my of number here. This is my is number here because equals is where we put the is sign. So 20% of 75 is what? So here's my is, and they put an equal anywhere they see the is, and then they're just saying put the number that comes after the is, and that's going to go right there. Okay, so it's just a different way that he uses to express that. But isn't this the formula that I just used? It is. Okay, it's probably the most common one you're going to use, one of these two. Those are my favorite anyway. Okay, so now we go ahead and do the math. Can we simplify this a little bit? Okay, so then can we say that 2/10 is 1/5? So what is 1/5 of 75? Well, isn't that just 15? Okay, because there are 15 5s in 75 or 5 15s in 75. And so we're going to end up finishing this by saying, okay, 15 goes here. We have to give 15 thingamabobs or whatamadugles. And then over here, 15 from the 75 leaves 60 that they're going to keep for themselves. And that is all there is to it. Okay, so notice that if you look down on the page, they're putting the 15 and the 60 there to complete the diagram picture. Okay, so now we're going to read problem number 3 example, and it says, Bo and Christy hide 600 raisins. This is 60% more than they hid last month. How many raisins did they hide last month? Okay, so here is the way I call these peanut problems. So the others I call eggs, okay, but these are peanuts because they're bigger than 100. All right, so notice that I've got a bigger than 100 situation. The 600 raisins are 160% because they're 60% more than last time. So last month was the 100%. And the question is, how many raisins did they hide last month? We don't know how many raisins they hid last month, but we do know that's the 100%, and the 600 is 60% more, so it's the 160%. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, the way I would do it is I would say 160% of what is 600? Because we know the 600 is the 160%, but we don't know what number the 160% of is. Okay, so we don't know the original here. So what we're going to do here to figure it out is we're going to change this to a percent. We're going to change this to a times. We're going to change this to an equal sign. And now to get this by itself, wouldn't I have to multiply by the reciprocal, and then on the other side, wouldn't I also multiply by 100 over 160? Because I want to find out what this is. So I'm going to have to multiply on both sides by the reciprocal. So now my unknown quantity, which is this, is going to be, so we can go ahead and call that LM because that's the last month raisins here. We'll call this LM because they have LM there. Okay, so LM equals, so now let's do our math over here. We have 600. I'll just put it 600 over 1 times 100 divided by 160. Well, let's go ahead and get rid of a 0. Okay, so when we multiply by another 10, that's going to be 6,000 divided by 16. So what is 6,000 divided by 16? Okay, well, let's say 16 3 times is 48. It's going to be 12, 0. 16 into 120. Does that go? I'm not sure. Maybe 7 times? I'm going to try 7. 7 times 6 is 42. 7 times 1 plus 4, hey, it's 11. I was pretty good at that. So 8. And then we bring down another 0. 6 into 80 is 5. So last month they did 375. So 375 was what they had last month. And the 160% of that is the 600. So we did find the number we were looking for. So look at the board, and we're going to have to be doing a lot of different problems just like this. Okay, in this case, they did work it the way I did. Okay, they did work it the way I did that time.